Someone you loved is gone. And even though you know they cannot hear you, you still talk to them. In your head, out loud, at their grave, in the dark when nobody is watching. You tell them things. You ask them questions. You say the things you never got to say. And here is what nobody tells you about that. You are not crazy. You are not weak. You are not stuck. You are doing something 100,000 years old, something so deeply wired into the human brain that it has survived every civilization, every religion, and every scientific revolution in human history. And the reason ancient humans started doing it is not what you think. For most of human prehistory, death was not a distant concept. It happened constantly. It happened close. A child in the night, a hunter who did not come back, a mother who did not survive the birth. Ancient humans lived surrounded by death in a way most people today will never experience. And yet, the archaeological evidence shows something remarkable. They did not simply move on. At burial sites stretching back 100,000 years, researchers have found food placed beside the dead, tools, personal objects, flowers, ochre. Not because they thought the dead needed these things, but because they could not stop treating them as if they were still there. Dr. Thomas Attig at Bowling Green State University has spent decades studying what he calls the process of relearning the world after loss. His research shows that when someone we love dies, the brain does not simply accept the absence. It keeps generating the person. It keeps expecting them to walk through the door, to answer when called, to be there in the morning. This is not a malfunction. This is the brain doing exactly what it was built to do. Model the people closest to us so accurately that we can predict their behavior, anticipate their needs, and coordinate with them for survival. The problem is that the model does not switch off when the person dies. It keeps running. And the ancient human response to that, the response that felt most natural, most instinctive, most human, was to keep talking to the model, to keep the conversation going. But here is what makes this truly extraordinary. Researchers studying grief across cultures have found that talking to the dead is not just universal, it appears to be genuinely helpful. A 2012 study by Dr. Dennis Klass at Webster University analyzed grief practices across dozens of cultures worldwide. His finding was striking. Cultures that maintained what he called continuing bonds with the dead, that kept talking to them, that kept including them in daily life, that treated the relationship as ongoing rather than finished, showed significantly better long-term grief outcomes than cultures that emphasized complete separation from the dead. The ancient human instinct to keep talking was not denial, it was healing. Now here is the detail that should stop you completely. Ancient humans did not just talk to their own dead, they talked to the dead of the entire group. Researchers studying prehistoric burial practices have found evidence of what anthropologists call ancestor veneration, the practice of treating deceased group members as ongoing presences in the life of the community. The dead were consulted before major decisions, before hunts, before migrations, before conflicts with neighboring groups. Not because ancient humans were confused about what death meant, but because the accumulated wisdom of every person who had ever lived in that group, every lesson learned, every mistake made, every danger survived, was too valuable to abandon just because the body was gone. Talking to the dead was how ancient humans kept their history alive. It was the world's first library. And every elder who had ever survived a drought, navigated a conflict, or found food in a barren season lived on in the memory and the conversation of the group long after they were buried. Here is the question that will stay with you. When you talk to someone you have lost, what are you really doing? You are not talking to a ghost. You are talking to the most complete model of another human being your brain has ever built. A model so detailed, so accurate, so deeply embedded in who you are that it continues to exist and respond and guide you long after the person is physically gone. The ancient humans who placed food beside their dead and whispered to them in the dark were not primitive. They were doing something that modern grief researchers now recognize as one of the most psychologically sophisticated responses to loss ever documented. They were keeping the people they loved alive in the only place that truly matters, inside them. The next time you find yourself talking to someone who is gone, do not feel strange about it. Do not feel embarrassed. Feel ancient. Because that impulse, that reaching towards someone who is no longer there, is one of the most human things you will ever do. It has been keeping us connected to each other across the distance of death for 100,000 years, and it has never stopped working.